Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball 25, episode number 8. We're continuing on, of course, with our project, but the trade deadline is now just days away, so we're going to have to kind of sit on it for a while until we get into next season here shortly, or at least big parts of the project, as we've been, focusing primarily on rebuilding the farm system here of late. I missed something that some of you caught on. Thank you for letting me know in the comments. There was a few different comments regarding this one. We did have an all-star, our first all-star, and it's kind of a peculiar one because Seth Brown, who is a guy who splits his time between the outfield and first base, made the all-star team. And I'm not quite sure how he managed to do this. I'll show you why in a second, but if I were to guess, I would say that his primary reasoning was this game right here. 3 home runs in a single game with 5 RBIs against the Yankees. But as a fielder, and you can see how he's split very evenly first base and right field with just a few appearances at center. He doesn't have a great arm. His zone rating is not very good either. He does fine. He's only committed one error all season. He's not a tremendous outfielder, but that's not normally what's going to get you onto the All-Star team, is it? It's your bat. And while he's a 0.8 wins above replacement kind of guy, and he's got a 119 OPS plus, it's not like he's terrible. His slugging is right about 500, but he's only hitting 238. It's definitely not the base paths, though he's had 2 triples this year and 14 doubles. It's the home runs. I mean, there's no other explanation besides he's hit 18 long balls. And then even then, I don't quite get it. It still doesn't make much sense. That does not have an all-star profile. But apparently first base is a bit of a weak position at the moment in the American League, I suppose. Checking back in with our phase 2 project of flipping the not weakest now, but weak-ish for better prospects. And in this case, we've been aiming for much better prospects. I mean, prospects that are like properly helping develop our farm system of late. But with only a handful of days to go, we're still easily about 15 to 20 players too high, and it's all around that rookie league, which of course was our draft picks. We did thin that out. We did thin the areas out, and then we had our draft and added another 20 plus. I signed a handful of others as well, and that combination has left us a bit too heavy again. Now there is a good number of 6 to 8 players that just lack potential. Still, we got rid of a lot, but there's still a good 8 or so that I can get rid of that way. Just let them go. Release, move on. Reason being, of course, is they're taking innings away from other pitchers. They're taking at-bats away from other outfielders. There's too many things, too many obstacles in the way of the development of a lot of our players. They can help us with that. So yes, okay, I can let go at least 8 that way, probably more. I can probably get rid of a dozen or so. But like I said, we're about 20, 25. So I'd still like to get 2 more deals done, but I only have 4 days in which to try to do that. And I've been trying. Like, there seems to be teams that are willing to take on, and there's teams that aren't. And with the draft just now behind us and a lot of clubs having a deeper farm than what they had at the start of the season, it's hard to find a suitor right now for any of these kind of deals. And especially because we're not just looking for any old pick. We've been looking for better prospects. So I might need to lower my standards a little bit and just get rid of some of that garbage for, kind of any fringe prospects, just to see if we can't get rid of, get 2 more deals done in the next 4 days. As much as I'd like to, there's just no deals happening right now. Like I said, the influx of the draftees onto rosters have filled things out for other teams. At the end of the year, they'll offload a lot of players that just aren't good enough, and that'll free up space, and then you can resume the kind of project that we're doing. In the meantime, though, we're still bloated. We still have too many players here. So I am going to go ahead and eliminate the worst of them. The first wave, I've eliminated 9 players. 9 players that were all 1 star or worse. We'll give it a day, see how the manager decides to make moves, or if he decides to make moves, we might go and help him out with the process. Before that trade deadline passes, while we might not be able to shift the farm right now, we absolutely may have the possibility to shift something at a higher level, as in at the senior level. Now, with that, here's the problem. We're number 30 of 30. We don't have players that are going to be very attractive right now in the market. What we would have would be getting some sort of fringe major league player on a favorable contract, which is not what's really being floated around right now, much of, in exchange for prospects, which is exactly what we would be wanting to do, right? Float around somebody who's got some quality that's still on a favorable contract in exchange for some young prospects. And that's the direction we want to go, but we don't have much to offer for that. And if anything that there would be, it would be kind of the pieces we'd be wanting to hang on to. I'll look at my roster and see if there is anybody that might be floated, but I don't see options for this roster at this time to be building for the future through that way. That's a great way to do it, especially in future years. If we can sign some okay free agents to favorable longer term contracts, then they are the ones that you can float before trade deadline in future seasons and get big time prospects and build the farm system that way, and then eventually build the club. But for now, there's just not much going on. But anyway, this is what we're down to in terms of the upcoming free agents. I've worked pretty hard to take care of all of that, and we're looking at just a few guys. So here is our senior roster for now. You got a lot of guys right down there at that minimum. We've got a lot of guys that are just 1 to 2 million, and then we have 5 players at 3 million or more. There's a reason we are 30 of 30. All of them have some quality, so that's good. Everybody is at 1 year left. We got a few guys at arbitration level, and we really only have the 2 or 3 older veteran players. The 2 on the bigger contracts, Stripling, Wood. We've negotiated with both of them for the coming season and dealing with that. And if anything, there's your 2. There's your 2 to float. They are already into their 30s, so they're not going to be around a long time. They're already making more money than we want. And so realistically, it's Ross Stripling, it's Alex Wood that a contender may be interested in. Now, for Stripling, for Wood, a 3.55 ERA, that's going to be desirable for some. Now, it's going to hurt us to lose him, but how is it going to hurt us? We're not making the playoffs this year. We're not making the playoffs next year. We're not at that stage. We're not at that phase. He's going to decline. If he has any value to us, it's in trade value than it is more than anything else, right? As a day-to-day starting pitcher, I could throw a rookie in there, and okay, so our performance drops a little bit. But what difference does that make, right? We got to think about the long term, not about this guy's going to get me a couple more wins than a rookie's going to get me now. As for Stripling, he's only got a 5.53 ERA. He's not doing fantastic. So that's our 2 guys, Wood, Stripling. We are going to be floating those 2. And, Think about the money that we can be shedding on the backside of that, giving us free agency money for the coming off season. The nice thing about signing free agents is you're adding value straight away from nothing. You're going from nothing to value, and so that's a big plus. It's a great way to build. The trade block was something that was pretty bare bones for a long time. As the trade deadline looms, suddenly there's 145 players on the trade block. These guys, like, we have no chance of signing any of them or trading for any of them or these guys. Like, we got to go down that list a little bit further. But 3 stars or better, maybe. Conforto, who we have a good scouting accuracy on, is 3 stars. Yeah, but he's 31. And there's that problem, right? This is age. Let's look at the younger players. There's not many. Soroka, like, what do we want with this guy? He's only 2 stars. Ahmed Rosario for Tampa Bay, 2.5 star. Maybe. Tellez, Meadows. Those are the 3 we're going to take a look at and see if we can't maybe get something worked out for them. For still being relatively young, he's got a lot of Major League service time already. Looking at, Mets, Cleveland, Dodgers, Tampa. There's quite a few Major League clubs he's played for, and he's been pretty consistent. I mean, he's had a 250 to 280 average every year. OPS overall is not high. Wins above replacement is not high. This is not wow kind of talent. I mean, what would you expect? If he was wow talent, Tampa wouldn't want to be moving on from him. Good contact. Good at avoiding strikeouts. Just kind of lacking power. It's kind of something our team has, but we got a lot of 55s where he's a 60. He's got good speed, though. He's got good stealing ability. He's going to definitely steal some bases. Can play short, can play left. Decent fielder. And there's the big thing. 1.5 million, and this is somebody who could be around in the system. Our assistant GM says if we submit this offer, they're going to laugh in our face. But they're saying it's a good offer. Please submit it. They'll take it. Here's the offer. Ross Stripling. There are 2 guys. Our 2 guys right there. Ross Stripling right off the bat. This is going to save us money. It's a much smaller contract. And Ahmed Rosario in return. One thing to keep in mind with the potential deals that we're going for right now is there's guys with expiring contracts. There's guys that aren't signed through next season. So what we're giving up, what we're getting in return, is going to come with some risk. They're not going to want to re-sign or for significantly more than what they're making. This is one where you worry about that. Rowdy Tellez, he's a National League All-Star from this year. Tellez, 29, playing first base, making $3.2 million, but he's only signed through this year. The OSA ratings actually even have him at 3 star, but we have a better scouting accuracy, which has him at 2.5. But fringe, 2.5 to 3 star. I mean, for us, that's big, but not exactly a very good first baseman. We're talking pretty weak stuff defensively. But he's got 3 wins above replacement, and depending on what we would be talking about in increased salary, if we're talking $8 million. That's what we're giving up to get him. We're also shedding a few years off of our roster, and it's our bats that are really struggling, not necessarily our pitching staff. Now, getting rid of 2 key pitchers for 2 bats, well, there's going to be a trade-off there, but let's not think about that aspect. The aspect is we're getting rid of like $17 million in salary, coming back with 5 in the return, and if it takes more to re-sign those 2 to hang on to, we've still increased value. Just depends on how much more we're going to be looking at with a guy like Tellez. At least he's insignificant. That actually makes me think that he wouldn't be looking for a whole lot more. I think this is a deal to see what happens. Bounced around a little bit the last few years. This guy does not have the kind of experience, which actually makes me think that he wouldn't be in for like a huge pay increase it would be moderate. Beginning in the straight swap category, we're not there. Alex Wood, Tellez, they say we're close. They say we're close. So let's see what we can do to sweeten that deal without necessarily hitting on our Major League roster side of it. Necessarily. We're getting Rowdy Tellez back, so maybe Armando Alvarez is a good swap on that part, especially at 30. And they go for that. Our assistant GM likes the deal. We're improving our finances by $2 million. First baseman for first baseman swap, and then Alex Wood, who we've already talked about multiple times of, well, he might be doing something good for us, but it's got limitations. Age, money, not something we want to keep around. I think this is great business for us. And we got an achievement traded for an all-star. Well, that just freed up 3 roster spots. Tellez is obvious because we got rid of a first baseman. Now we've got 2. We have Rosario. I think we absolutely want to get Rosario into our Major League roster. But what are we going to do in the field? Do we just add him straight in, knowing that our other vacancy is, well, a starting pitcher and a relief? We're going to have to add at least 1 pitcher coming up from AAA. Great for them. Great opportunity for them to grow and develop. But then what? Can I just throw Rosario in place of a reliever? Or are we going to have to move somebody down? Let me assess the squad. Well, it's already super obvious that one thing's got to change, and that's because I have 2 shortstops already on the roster. We don't need a third. Good news is they're both 2-star guys. So we have upgraded our shortstop position out of this move. Nick Allen, the younger, making that league minimum, or we're good on that part. He's still got some potential left. Not a power guy at all, but he's good on the base paths, and he's good at the position, and he's doing okay this year. He was, what? He's now a third-year pro. The last 2 years were both a mixed bag of some AAA time along with that senior level time. 207 is what he hit as a rookie. 221 is what he hit this last year. 237 he's hitting this year. Not great, but he's gone from a minus guy to a slightly plus guy. Not bad for a young 25-year-old. Mateo, though. Mateo's, he can play all over the freaking place. I need to maybe see what and where he's been playing. I think Mateo is, yes, claimed on waivers. So we picked up Mateo off of waivers. We obviously can't drop him to AAA. We have to keep him on the roster, but he doesn't have to play short. He can play other positions. He's doing okay. 236 for us, definitely better than he was doing for Baltimore. He only played 14 games for them, just 6 starts for us. Much more. So there is kind of an opportunity here to maybe hang on to a versatile, but at 29, big ifs. I think short term, Ruiz has a 2-week injury, and I can do something about that, and then we can kind of make a decision. Who's struggling the most? Rengifo? I think that's another. Is he another one we claimed on waivers? It is. I got he's making 4.4, so maybe we need to look at trading Rengifo. But he's doing much better for us than he was for the Angels. He hit 185. He's hit 240 for us, which is kind of similar to what he hit the last couple of years, where he had some decent numbers. And another pretty versatile player. Not great defensively. Florial's another candidate and another guy we claimed off of waivers. So there's a few players out there that you could maybe justify a move outward. But we'd have to kind of do a trade on some of them because it's not, the guys that are struggling the most, we have to hang on to thanks to waivers. But that doesn't mean we can't use an option on one of the younger guys who's not doing great, just not doing necessarily as bad, so that you keep the value that we've added through waivers, through these couple of trades, hang on to all that value, and reassess at the beginning of next season, because then all of a sudden those guys that we held on to, that we took on waivers after this year, we're free to do whatever we want with them. We're free to trade them now, actually, as it is, I think. I'm not sure I can include them in a trade after claiming them off of waivers. Something in the back of my mind tells me that there was some rule against that. I know I can't send them to AAA. But with Ruiz moved to the 10-day DL, Rosario's are able to come in. We've got guys with flexibility in positions. So that takes care of the batters. I still have the 2 spots. We lost a starter. We lost a reliever. Let's check our AAA roster and see who has earned the shot. First off, first candidates are what we have on the 40-man. And we have 1 starting pitcher, and we have 1 reliever. Freddie Tarnock is down there. He was actually doing pretty decent in his 14 innings before we sent him down, and he's done well since going down to AAA. So we're going to go ahead and bring Tarnock back up. But what about, we have 1 left, Osvaldo Bido. How's he done? He had a 6.5 ERA, major league level, and at AAA, not much better at 5.56. Let me see what else we have. We've got plenty of space on our 40-man roster. If we've got a starter who deserves it, we'll bring them up instead of Bido. So the current AAA starters, 4 of them are supposedly ready to come up. Medina's the only one who's not. 5.40 ERA, 2-star guy. If our assistant GM doesn't think he's ready and those numbers don't consider it either, that's an easy enough choice. So now we're at Waldachuk, Holman, Cushing, or Bido. Bido has at least somewhat of an edge with the already on 40-man roster and having some time up there this year. 692 had major league experience the last couple of years. The numbers weren't as bad, but this year he's only had 6 games. Waldachuk was injured for a long time and only just come back from that injury recently. Does not look ready to come up. Holman's got okay numbers this year. He's somebody who's been coming up through the ranks. He was AA last year, AAA this year for the first time. Put up some decent numbers, and he's still got potential. He's still young. Could definitely get him some time, but we start wasting major league service time if we do that. He is Rule 5 eligible, it looks like, but I doubt anybody's going to be coming after him with those kind of numbers or that type of potential. So he's one that we could still wait on development-wise. Cushing's raw numbers, ignore that 16 ERA last year. That was 3 games after coming up from AA. So AA a year ago, 4 4.33 ERA this year, 5, pretty flat. 8 and 7 in overall. Not very many walks. He's been good for that. Decent number of strikeouts. And a 5 on the ERA. On paper, he's our highest overall guy. Or there's Bido. Bido, who has just kind of been okay. Was with Pittsburgh a year ago. Nobody's jumping out as like, oh, that's the guy in waiting. Cushing's the one you're thinking maybe. We're going to bring Bido back up. None of those guys appear ready just yet. Well, we're still a couple days away from the trade deadline, and there could be moves coming. Offers the other direction. The 2 guys that I looked at that were pieces that could be moved, we've moved the both of them, along with a fringe piece, and turned that into 2 pretty serviceable guys. Now, next time, we'll take a look at their contracts and see what we could do about getting them re-signed. Pay bump almost certainly coming. I think we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood in between where we were at with the 2 guys who were outgoing versus those 2, giving us some leeway for the coming off season and keeping us very much. We were already number 30, or even lower. Do we even have the minimum now? There is a minimum that has to be spent. I'm not even 100% sure that we're at that anymore. I'll have to assess that as well. I think that was a pretty decent piece of business right there. Ruiz, still out for a couple weeks. We'll have to make a decision when he comes back on who to send down to AAA. And of course, we'll have some limited options with those few guys that are pieces we picked up off the waiver wire. And of course, the waiver wire is still something that continues on well beyond the trade deadline. So we'll be keeping an eye out on that as well, as it's another fantastic way to pick up pieces for free. We know we need them. We definitely need them. But I think we're off to a pretty good start of playing the market. We've definitely restarted or started that build the farm project. We've got so much more depth. We've got 5 times the depth that there was before. There are pieces with some potential, and those pieces with potential can turn into bigger, better pieces. We're going the right direction for sure. But we're 40 and 67 overall, and we just took away certainly a couple better pitchers, but we definitely got better at the plate, where we were, well, truly awful a moment ago. So we'll see what the manager does with those new pieces, and if the record can get back towards a 400 type record, or if it's going to continue to trend downward as it has of late. They've definitely taken more losses than wins recently. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.